The internet is currently full of terrible AI art. The infinite stream of aesthetically worthless AI sludge and slop is like a digital sewer. But at the same time, it offers us some good opportunities to reflect on what we consider art to be, and what we value in art. What I'm interested in is the various arguments that I've seen people make online as to why AI art is not art, and why it cannot be art. What I find striking is that many such arguments are also arguments against viewing photography as an art. And yet, it's been generally accepted now for several decades that photography has created undeniable examples of fine art. Some, for instance, might say that AI-generated art is not really art because it merely sets off a mechanism that then unfolds automatically, and it is therefore this mechanism, not the person using it, who produces the image. And yet, one could say the same thing about photography. Instead of selecting an AI generation process and adjusting some settings and writing in a prompt, you pick a camera and any potential accessories, select your camera settings, and push the button. In fact, such an argument had been made about photography in 1865, with one writer arguing that while photography can be used to assist painting, it cannot be an art in its own right because it lacks, quote, something beyond mere mechanism at the bottom of it. A related argument is that the person generating AI images is not in control of the process the way an artist should be. You can put in the same exact prompt several times, and by means of some kind of randomization, the output will be different each time, proving that it's not really an artistic process. But again, this applies also to many cases of photography. If you're doing street photography, for instance, you can point your camera at a given direction and shoot it a couple times, and the result will be different each time, owing to factors external to the photographer's control. Of course, one might argue that AI art and photography are fundamentally different because, unlike photography, AI art is generated partly by utilizing images made by other people. And while this does complicate things and comes with the danger of plagiarism, in my view it doesn't actually discount the possibility of AI art being art, because photomontage is also often made by utilizing pre-made images, and there are incredibly interesting and generally accepted instances of works of art made through photomontage. So it seems to me that if we want to accept that photography can create works of fine art, then we also have to be open to the idea that AI generation might, in some cases, also create works of art. At the same time, I am sympathetic to people repulsed by AI art, given how terrible most of it is. So maybe it's not non-art, maybe it's just really bad art. But then, why is it bad? And how might good AI art actually be produced? I think here again it is highly productive to look at the parallel shown by the art of photography. See, with the advent of photography, many painters were afraid that it would basically put them out of a job, given that it could depict things more accurately and faster than a human hand ever could. Why would someone hire a painter to immortalize a moment when it could be directly captured by photographic means? In 1901, artist Henrietta Klopath wrote, "Some people seem to think that when the process of taking photographs in colors has been perfected and made common enough, the painter will have nothing more to do." The first publicly available photographic process was known as the daguerreotype, and after witnessing it in 1839, the painter J.M.W. Turner famously said, "This is the end of art. I am glad I had my day." But, of course, with such views, painters were selling themselves short. First of all, because they were comparing the two methods only by standards of realism and representation. Sure, there were things that a camera could do that a painter couldn't, but that goes both ways. There were things a painter could do that a camera never could. And so more optimistic and more experimental painters believe that, on the contrary, photography has liberated painting. By taking on the task of realistic representation, it liberated artists from having to be realistic and representative, because a camera was not capable of doing this, or this, or this, or this. This was the opinion expressed by photographer Edward Weston, who in 1930 wrote, "Photography has or will eventually negate much painting, for which the painter should be deeply grateful. relieving him, as it were, from certain public demands: representation, objective seeing. One of the founders of Surrealism, André Breton, was similarly optimistic, as he believed that the invention of photography will lead painters to break with tradition and become more inventive. In short, the tension between painting and photography led artists on both sides to ask, what can my medium do? What is my medium capable of that others are not? The exploration of a medium and its possibilities is really one of the most wonderful things about art. Painters can be impressionistic or abstract or surreal. They can utilize the texture of a canvas or the thickness of the paint. And so, while photography did end up replacing hand-drawn visuals for many practical purposes, like portraits or tourist souvenirs, it also helped to discover what was uniquely special about it as an artistic medium. And while photographers did often try to recreate the standards of painting and learn from painters' compositional techniques, they also went on to explore the possibilities provided by their medium. What can photography show us that nothing else can? And so photographers went on to take, for instance, microscopic images of things invisible to the naked eye, or captured motion and movement that the human eye would have otherwise missed. And this doesn't mean that the two arts isolated themselves from one another. It is precisely by exploring what was unique about their mediums that the arts opened up new aesthetic perspectives that ended up influencing and inspiring one another as well. And it also led to the creation of new hybrid art forms, which combined photography and painting, such as collage art and photomontage. And here we come across something that makes much AI-generated art completely aesthetically uninteresting. It's not asking, what can AI generation methods do that other media cannot? A lot of the time, it simply replicates something that could be done by hand and just does it really badly. When you see a piece of AI-generated art, it can be useful to ask, could this have been drawn by hand and looked much better for it? If the answer is yes, then there was no aesthetic reason to use AI methods. The piece could have been done by hand and would then also benefit from the planning, precision, correction, and character that a human hand is capable of. Such cases show a complete lack of artistic curiosity. Imagine this. You have a futuristic piece of technology that works completely differently from a human hand, and it is capable of generating really unprecedented and bizarre and even inhuman-looking images. And yet, you're using it to replicate something that's been done before, and not very well at that. Judged by aesthetic standards, it's almost shameful to have such a strange piece of tech and use it to replicate something that's trending on ArtStation, probably plagiarizing another artist's work in the process. If you've seen my video explaining the philosophy of Gilles Deleuze with the example of drum machines, you might see how that Deleuzian perspective applies very well here. If you want to create something new aesthetically, you have to ask not, how do I use this method to replicate or represent something, but what new possibilities are opened up by this method? I think this is the key to creating actually good and actually interesting AI art. Ask, what is this capable of that other methods are not? And there's plenty of possibilities, because AI generation can create things that are aesthetically unique and unprecedented, and results that could not be achieved by either hand-drawn art nor photography. These days, everyone can write in a prompt to generate an AI image, just as everyone has a camera on their phone that they can take pictures with. However, those who managed to raise photography to the level of art have been people who combined established aesthetic values with entirely new skills. Those who combined a knowledge of composition, perspective, and a keen and perceptive eye with knowledge of camera technology and its settings, as well as exploration and curiosity and imagination in choosing what to photograph. Similarly, those who manage to raise AI-generated visuals to the level of art, if this happens, will have to combine aesthetic talent with a wide skill set, which would perhaps include extensive knowledge of AI technology and the ability to program, such that they could finely tweak the parameters and methods they use. When you think of it this way, as a way of opening up art to a wider set of skills, the idea of AI art starts to seem a lot more exciting. And perhaps those who paint and draw by hand will themselves end up being inspired by something AI generated. I, for one, would find it extremely fascinating if someone produced a painting on canvas that imitated the quirks of AI visuals. AI art can create visuals that we would not have been able to see in any previous historical period. So why limit yourself? Art, by exploring different aesthetic media and methods, expands the very bounds of human experience. And now I'd like to thank my patrons, whose names I used to generate AI images. 404 Error, Just Undo It, Andre Oliva, Archive Transients, Beetle Scratches, Ben E., Celsius Enjoyer, Circadia, Daniel Zotner, Evie Rosk, Eric Owens, Francois Yue Wu, Got Hit with DeBoer for Delosing at Guitari Hero, Hong Kong Aesthetics, John D. Pagani, Katy Perry is John Bennett Ramsey, Clement Feis, M. Lim, Max Bendick, Nathaniel Lark, Nathaniel Owen, Paul Windfer, PDXJ Morris, Polecat, Rachel Ann, Radical Q, Sky, Stax Murner, Cybundit, The Empty Set, Venice, Victor Redco, Yesterday's Rise, as well as all of these wonderful patrons. Those who always watch my patron credits will have noticed a painful absence. Yes, after so many years, Tendies123 is no longer a Patreon supporter of mine. I'm sad to see them go, but I'm also deeply grateful for all the support they've given me. Thank you, Tendies123. So this was another shorter type video on a topic that I've wanted to touch on for a while now. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm excited to hear what you thought of it. Chances are my next video will be a longer one, and if you support me on Patreon, you get to vote in polls to determine what the next video topic will be. Hope you have a good day. Thank you.